Afternoon, guys. It's Alex again here, and today we're really going to dig in to some of the challenges that I've been having at the minute. So we're going to start with some of the current challenges for me. Look at a small pattern I found on oil, some reversals on Monday, and it happened again yesterday. And then just some of the key takeaways and lessons I'm learning at the minute. Even though they're tough ones, they'll probably pay dividends in the future. So to start with, so at the minute I was trying to increase my size, and it sounds like it's just a simple thing as, okay, I started with a 1, and then from there I'm going to trade a 2. But there's a lot more that goes on in your head, and your risk management and how you maybe take the trade and your access when doing that. And for me, on some of my technical setups now, it's right, I'm going to start trading instead of just 1s all the time now, 2s. It gives me that ability to scale in, scale out, and it's something mainly the scaling out, but it's something you don't have with a 1, even though you feel more comfortable. Once you're out of the position, you're out, and it's hard to then get back in because maybe you're selling a lot lower or buying a lot higher. So for me, I started to increase my size on technical setups, but straight away I was struggling. One of the main things, as you used to see on some of the videos, I used to have my P&L in the corner. That never helped me really. It's always there. And it always kind of, you go from seeing it on a 1 lot, maybe move around and fluctuate. Now it's fluctuating double, and it can make you make bad decisions in the moment. Also, what started to work for me is now diminished a bit with the current market conditions. And some of the videos we're seeing is now if we have a move to some bigger levels and we have a bit of a consolidation, and then playing the momentum breakout through. And what I'm finding at the minute is when we come down, we have some of the consolidation. This momentum, it drives a little bit, and you can just see on the tape, there's not much action, and there's not more participants selling, and you kind of get a little stall and a pop back up. So yeah, more size, changing market conditions for me has led to a pretty bad run at the minute, and it's trying to not get too disheartened, but trying to adapt and maybe how we can work on this, because it's not the best time to have this happen and when you're increasing your size. So just a few things on that. It's on sizing, I've been adding rather than clipping more in the first place, and it skewed my risk reward of the trade. So if I'm trying to sell here and I'm you're wrong here and you're targeting down here. If I'm selling 1 here, we've got this little break, I'm selling 1 here, my average is now here, I'm still not wrong till up here, and it's kind of skewing my trades a bit. So maybe, I should be now looking to clip just 2 at the start and make sure it's the right trade to take. On top of that, I found myself moving to smaller time frames to find the trades when really I should be waiting. So if I like these on, an hourly or 30-minute big profile plays, if you can't see them, I'm kind of over-analyzing. Now I'm in a 5-minute time frame. When I'm looking at a 5-minute time frame, then you're looking on a 1 minute for some little structure. And you could be playing the right structure, the setup you like on a smaller time frame, but be in the middle of a big balance on the day. And third, I should be looking at mapping new ideas and patterns while my edge isn't as strong. Instead of trying to force it on the smaller time frames, maybe this is a chance to when the markets change and the dynamics change like this, maybe there's a chance for me to find some different patterns that work better in this environment. So yeah, they're the main things I've been struggling with. And now coming on from the last one, I'm going to look at 2 quick trades I found. And to be honest, I only found them by getting caught selling lows for some momentum. So the first one was Monday on oil. And, looking at the backdrop, we had some, quite tapered profiles here and here. A bit of a balance down here and some volume, and obviously we had the singles down. So we kind of filled the singles, but every time it came down, you can see on the closes, we weren't closing at the lows, and we were keeping value a little bit higher, leaving these tails. Now I'd actually come into this day thinking we might get a little bit of a flush through this level down here, and it was for me then, how could I try and access the sell? And what I found is there was no good structure on a 5-15 minute, to get in, that builds. And you can see on the days we've kind of had this main little flag, but then as it broke, there's 4 or 5 TPOs all sat there. So it's not a clean break. It's he's sitting there, it's coming back up, pushing back up. And what this allowed me to do eventually, after I got caught, selling that low, selling another low, selling down here, is maybe there's a trade on the squeeze. You're watching the flow because you're looking for the short and the momentum to pick up. And when you're not seeing it, you still know there's going to be a lot of people selling up here and on these highs as it pushes back up. And maybe it gives you the chance to play the squeeze instead. And yeah, it's not everyone's favorite trade, and it's not your big 100-tick winner, big breakout, but it keeps you ticking over maybe in times where other things aren't working. And then what I found on this day, if you look, there's, it's coming off, but it's really struggling. And you've got, your prior day low there. And we're not really breaking it clean. We're kind of breaking it, flushing back up. And as you can see, it's like, once you're struggling, you're watching the tape and you're seeing it struggling. Maybe there's a chance to play this on the next TPO, that squeeze, hits the lows, can't hold, and the squeeze back up and taking the stops. So if we put that down onto a smaller time frame. So this was it on the 1 minute now. So you can see, selling. Every time we're breaking these lows, it's whipping back up, lows back up. And it's struggling then around here. That was the prior day's low. And we're not really having that clean break. I mean, the delta's coming off quite heavily and then it's drifting off, but we're not having the clean break. So after getting caught pretty much in here a little bit, probably in here as well that day, looking for the breakdown. So I kind of saw we had this kind of like trend line building. It's quite pronounced. You can see obviously there's a lot of highs, and you've got to think people that are trying to do this more passively are probably having stops here, all above the highs, and then obviously down here. So the time we got down into here, the volume's not been good all day on these breaks. And I thought, you know what, maybe there's a chance if we fail down here to play the squeeze back up and it just runs some stops. And you can see obviously like on the delta, we had a big drop down, and then here we had a big run. And it's like, it felt like a lot of the stops going, people getting tired of being short. And it's maybe like how we can, maybe you get caught in here, maybe you don't. But how, if you see this, there's not really much volume. How then you could look like that's the trend line. Maybe I can play a bit of momentum back up and run through some of these. And kind of like just targeting maybe as like a pivot line. Each level is, we get through and we hold above, we can go for the next level and try and run some of the stops back up. So first I thought what we'll do is we'll go through the order flow on this one, because it's not too long, but it does show you the difference in pace on the stops compared to on the breakdown. So start watching. So we're watching the oil ladder. So we're watching this ladder, and you can see I'm sitting here looking to sell, and you can see on the time of sales, there's not a lot going through, it's small volume, and it's kind of been like that. And you see me try and sell, you get some selling come in, you take the low, and then it's just not really much more. I get caught again, really trying to get short here. I've got some levels marked up below to get through. The second I sell into someone absorbing down here, you're just getting nothing out, and it just sits there at the low. And then you're just trying to, I've seen it so many times, I've been caught and it's whipped back up. So you want to keep it, I'm trying to keep it quite tight down there, especially when you're not seeing everything you want to see. So then from there, you've seen, we had a big seller come in, someone sits and absorbs, and then it's not going anywhere else. Yeah, and I'm trying to look down and see what I've seen. So you've got to think now, whoever's sold as well is pretty much trapped down here. This is on 2 times the speed, just to speed up through this. But this is then where I've tried this again. I've been watching this trend line. It's not going. Someone's going to be caught down here now. And is there a chance now to run some of these stops? So yeah, I get in here. I'm back to doing it on ones with me, because it's a new thing I've seen a few times now. And I didn't really want to size up when I've been struggling, and I really wanted to be sizing up on the momentum breaks. So yeah, I tried to play from here without this volume, and on that chart, that was kind of, the top of the trend line. So you're trying to hope for a little bit of a break, push through, and then the stops to run and it carry on through it. It kind of gets stuck here for a little bit. I was a little bit confused. I thought maybe we'll go this time because we had on the chart we had the full wick through and back, but really on this you're not particularly wrong until you're coming out of this balance. Although it's not the best. I kind of jumped into it on the trend line. You had a lot more time than you originally thought. So yeah, you can see we're still stuck in this area, but we're not, we've tried the lows, someone got trapped. And now you're really looking to hope there. Look, you start to get this little pickup in buying and think, people have had enough now trying to sell in, me included. And maybe we're going to get this squeeze back up based on as well, you've got them nice tapered TPOs showing there's some buying down here. For me, it's the first level to get above and trying to sit around is this 86, and that takes out the first high. And from there, then you've got your bigger targets of the prior highs. You see, you start to get a little bit of buying 72.20. So you've got to think, now the auction's picking up a little bit here. So you've got to think, okay, maybe this is now where we get this reversal. We're getting a little bit more action, a bit more velocity instead of that kind of, the drag into the low, nothing really happens and drift back up. So if you were selling for that break, if you're selling around here now, you've got to be slightly worried when you've seen it wick through and then, bullish engulfing back through. This is where obviously on your chart as well, you've seen the delta start to pick back up from the lows now, showing there's some buying coming back. This is that first level now, this 88, 86s around this area. No, we've hit it and we've come off, but for me, like the value wasn't in, playing for the 5, 6 ticks, 10 ticks over there. It's, you're playing for that bigger squeeze. So for me, I was happy as long as we didn't come right back into this balance to try and let it rotate a bit. You don't want to keep it, let it come all the way back because then there's maybe a chance it is going to go and flush these lows now. So yeah, for me, I wanted to see a little bit more action and push up, but we kind of got this stall. But what I'm trying to work on at the minute is if you're not seeing it straight away, you're not wrong. Sometimes it takes a bit longer, and you're sitting now around that level you want to see. The bigger orders coming through on the tape, the buy orders. So there's nothing telling you to get out at the minute. So what it really took, as you'll see in a sec, is once we kind of got through these 86s up into here and we rotated a bit, that's when like the real squeeze started to come and the started to get run. And so if you looked on the on a footprint, you had like a huge delta, and just a big push up, leaving low volume because everyone's trying to get out of this trade now. So yeah, now, I mean, really, it's a bit tight, but I was on a bad run. I didn't want to let it come back again. So, so that's more emotional, putting a stop in. It's something I'm trying to stop doing, but when you're having a bit of a bad run, it's easy to try and keep it really tight. But it does hold here on the pushback and then back into these 86s. Really, you need to stop further into this balance because it is kind of like a little low volume ledge just below you. Now this is where it starts to pick up. You're still seeing this buying come in. We're getting back above the 86s now. So now you're starting to think, okay, maybe this is on. Maybe we can get this run back up. And this is where, again, for me, the time of sales can be really useful to see what's actually going through in there. Like you start to get this flush, and suddenly, now you're back at double O's. And the pace is picked up. You can see, although it's 2 times the speed, you can see the change in it. You can see these bigger orders coming through, showing some bigger participants. And then again, you get a flush of buying back through as we're going through these different highs now. So even though it was slow at the start, once you've kind of got through, you're now nearly 50 ticks on side. You're trying to hold this now. And you know you've come a long way quick. So for me now, it's trying to manage it. You don't want to let this pull back far because it's a squeeze. And you can see how it's squeezing, the stops are going. But you want to try and extract as much as you can. So for me, once we come 50 ticks up to here, I had a level up here. It flicked it and came back under. And for me, that was all I was kind of looking for. You've got 2 on, maybe you can, get something out once you see the first stall. Use, one of the other levels as, it'll maybe pull back to there and then hold. But for me, with a 1, that's all you're trying to play for, is that quick action, squeeze back up. And I've only seen this from being caught myself into the lows. So yeah, that's the first one. So if we carry on now for a second, we can go and look at this one, and it's kind of the same pattern, albeit not as pronounced. But I was looking on this day now, saying, well, that was the day where we had that squeeze. And yeah, we've got a flat value area, but we closed pretty high. We kind of had a wedge as well. Like if you looked at an hourly, we were kind of doing this, and we kind of broke through, and we were sitting up here. So for me, I was looking basically, if we do get a pullback into here, is there a chance, we push back up again? Because oil is still technically bullish. I know a lot of us are looking at the SPR and maybe what that could do, but until that's announced, I think you've got to stay with the theme and the conditions. So yeah, on this day, my idea was, we built some value up here, but there's probably going to be a pullback and test, because this was a late day move with less volume. I mean, you had that VPOC there, so it's first area I wanted to see is around here. And if not, how do we do around VPOCs? We've come off quite far in the cash. And yet you can see again, we've come off quite hard, but then we start to stall. You've got a lot of overlapping TPOs. It's starting to look like maybe it could be a nice tail on the day. Then this is obviously, the reversal actually comes in from down here, but this is your next TPO. You see that squeeze back up into that value area. So this is it on the 1 minute. So obviously you've had this range in the morning, it broke down, pushed up, but then you've got this same thing again. It's not really flushing, it's really messy, volume dies off again. And for me, I was looking at this then, so we had this, we tested the low, and it didn't leave a great low, but that was right on the prior day's VPOC. This is the pot from the day before. And maybe that gives you a chance, try and look for a small 1 minute trend line and keep it tight, but play that squeeze back up through the stops. I've just seen it the other day. This one as well, is we had the low volume down here, obviously, but we also had then this divergence in the RSI. And I know I've just done a video on it before. Maybe how that's a good way of spotting the end of some of these moves is when we're breaking lower, maybe, but the the cumulative delta is diverging, showing you, there's people now buying this market and selling's not as strong as it was. And for me, it was here. This is your execution. You're trying to keep it. You don't really want to see it coming back down into here because you risk getting flushed on the low. But if you can, get in here, can we go for number 1? The first big one for me was 40. And then maybe, up into this level. But first, for me, it was just, because I'm going to have one on, it's, again, just bank what you can. You don't, it's not the prettiest trade and the big trade, but it can keep you ticking over more than selling into the lows, taking that 10, 20 tick loser. So if we watch this one as well. Right, I'll put this one on 2 times the speed as well, just so we can get through them. So this is the second one, obviously the oil ladder again, here's the tanner sales. And as we come into the low, you see that, that's selling again. Bear in mind, this is the VPOX down here. And then it just stalls. And, if you're getting that selling in, you really want to see it flush through. Maybe it stalls down here, but leaves some low volume. And again, it's not. And it's really easy to get caught selling into that low and then watching it rip back. So again, now on this one, this kind of 20 area around here is where I'm looking for the squeeze to start to come back in. So there, we get through, we get this buying from in the tape, so I kind of get long 21s. Somehow I've got a habit of paying quickly up instead of being a little bit more patient. But really now, as long as we kind of don't come back into here and break kind of this volume here, I'm going to try and hold this. I put a stop in again, just due to your mindset's not right, you've had a bit of a worse run. But you see again, as we come into here, someone hits it straight back up and you get a little bit of action. And we're going to see, rotate a little bit around it. So we kind of like broke the trend line, but we're sitting just above it, rotate it in. I've started to see this 14s, and it can't really get back through there, and someone keeps picking it up from 14 to 17-ish. So really, I didn't want to see it below. This stop is probably really way too tight because it could easily flick down and you're still right. So really, the 26 area is a level of height. Get above that. You see that buying come in, 27, 28, and you think, okay, maybe this is that same play, the squeeze that I've now started to notice. So now really, you're at these 26s. You're still not wrong till down here, but you'd rather see it, hold into this area and then go for the squeeze. So then that's me just marking up that 40s. That was kind of where I thought there'll be a lot of stops above that level. And that's really you want to get a gut above and just see a little push and flip through. So let that quickly play. So now we're holding above, and you start to see this coming like this. You've got a little bit more action in the buying. And now you're looking for 40s now. You're kind of on the right lines. As long as you've seen this faster action and the blue coming up for me, just your visual kind of thing, then you're looking at to see what the size is. We start to get a bit of selling back down because this is kind of the level sellers really need to get it back below and hold. But again, I'm not playing for the 5-6 ticks here. I'm playing for that bigger squeeze back up. So I've come and put a stop in again because I didn't really want to see it below the trend line. Again, still, you're not really wrong till here. It's just a mindset thing that I'm trying to sort out when I'm having a bit of a worse run. So you get the buy and come back in again, and that's your level. Once you're above 40, hopefully you'll get that flush. And then again, when you've got one on, you don't want to see, if you start to see it get hit back down quite hard, you're going to get yourself out. If you've got two, maybe you get out of something and you try and then look for it to hold 40 that it does, and then go for the next stop. So you can start to see it's all buying really coming in now as people are getting out of these shorts. We kind of had like a comment as well around the energy, and maybe like basically saying that the SPR might only take oil off $2 a barrel, so it's not really worth doing. It's kind of the insight. So that's why I was kind of hovering, thinking, do I add? But we didn't really see them flows come in fully. The volume didn't increase more than it was, so I didn't add in the end. But I thought, you know what, let's try and see if we can run this anyway. So now obviously it's starting to get into a lot more, volume's been done up here. So now I'm above 40, so now it's just looking where you want to get out of this trade. I'm really trying to hold this since we've had that comment come out. Even though we've not seen that volume pick up, it's like, well, you're in a long, you've got good prices. Would it be a comment I normally buy? Maybe. So we'll stick with this. And you see this, that big flush of buying into 58s, and then we start to struggle now. And that's maybe all this run of stops done. The news isn't, if it was a big comment, you'd want to see it just push up, and you wouldn't want to see this. And that's where I end up getting at, is that flush back down then as the stops have hit. So yeah, they're the two that I've got for you today on that. It's just something different. It's not my usual favorite type of trade, but it's something I've noticed by getting caught selling into some of the lows sometimes. So yeah, that was that same one. That was your 40s that went. That was the 40s that went. We flushed up quickly and then we got hit down. And you can see in the end it held the 40s, then it took the other levels to flush. But when you've got one on, this could break it straight back down, and do you want to risk giving a lot back? So yeah, some key takeaways for me, and I've had a chat with some of the mentors. It does get you down when you try and increase your size, and then maybe the edge that was working isn't working as much, so now you're taking double the losses. It's easy to get caught up in the P&L. So when sizing up, you need to be more picky on your trades you're going to size up on. You don't want to just size up on everything that I did at first, because you can dig yourself a little, well, not a hole, but you can pull yourself back down quite quick and get disheartened, and suddenly you're taking double the loss. Another one for me, I was speaking to Alex about this, is one of the first things I did when I increased my sizes, I was an oil trade, and it worked. I didn't really go offside, but somehow managed to lose money, like only $20, $30 on the trade, but it did 80 ticks, and I'm somehow down, so basically flat. And I think some of that was, having your P&L in the corner. Yeah, it's good for risk management. You know where you are on the day for your stop and that. But you see these larger fluctuations, and it can distract you and make silly decisions like it did for me. So that's now gone. After speaking with some of the mentors like Eric, it was like, if I'm going to add more size, click with 2 instead of clicking with 1 and adding another. You add another, you're skewing the trade, it's changing the trade. And you see a lot of the elite traders can add and add in, but it's one stage at a time. Instead of trying to increase your size and scale in, scale out, maybe just do what you're doing with 2 instead of 1 on your high conviction ones. Then over time, when you've got more confidence in that, you can look to scale in and scale out of the trade with different size clips. As well, the market is always changing. You need to learn when your edge is maybe not in play, and when you can be looking for new edges. It's I notice when it's changing, but sometimes it's too late. By then, I've tried the trade so much, it's not worked. You took a lot of losses where actually you can see it's not happening. You're ready to step back, and then that is your time. I know Ollie says it a lot. It's like that's your time to focus and find some new plays. Start mapping some other patterns that work better when we get this environment in the future. But yeah, no, that's it for today. And it goes again. It's the usual place if you want to get in touch, info@axiafutures.com, and then I'll be back in 2 weeks. Thank you.